It's that time of year again. The air is cooling down, and the leaves changing color. And now it's Halloween season. And what better way to celebrate than build a PC with mismatched parts and an odd motherboard? What I call my little $111 Frankenstein. Now here's where it starts to get interesting, and it's one of the reasons I even call this PC a Frankenstein. Here we have an EVGA GeForce GTX 470. It has 1.2 gigabytes of video memory and runs hot as hell, given the Thermi nickname. I mean, if you look at videos of the GTX 480 and see people cooking eggs on it, I mean, in my experience with how hot the 470 got, it wasn't all that entirely different, but generally the 400 series always got hot. Now, back in 2011, if your friends saw you pairing a GTX 470 with a Pentium G630, they probably would have thought you're crazy. I mean, it was a fast card in 2010 and 2011, and generally, you'd probably pair a GTX 460, maybe, or a GTX 550 back then with this. But this is 2019, so why the hell not? I mean, now this wasn't the best deal on the card that I could have possibly gotten, but I did end up picking up for $30. So, the reason I say this PC is my little Frankenstein isn't so much about how rubbishly put together it is. I mean, it sort of is. But it's more of the parts in this PC and the oddball pairing going on here. Firstly, we do have an OEM Gateway motherboard, which I bought from a friend for $20. It's from an old Gateway SX SFF PC that was released back in 2011, and it features an H61 chipset, supporting all Sandy Bridge CPUs, or so I thought. Well, apparently this board has a limit for the max TD supported, which happens to be 65 watts. Yikes. Well, the original plan was to use my i5 2400, which I got for around $25, and it turns out, well, that wasn't possible. And it would not even post. I tried my i3 2120. It booted for the first time, and then suddenly never again. Which was odd given that the i3 2120 is 65 watts. So the only thing I had left to use was my Pentium G630, which I bought from eBay for $5 back in the day. Well, back in the day, I mean more like a year ago. Nowadays, they're about the same in USD, or around $3.45 mark, but they're sold for pretty much peanuts. But we will be limited by those two cores, sadly though. On the brighter side of things, I did manage to pick up a 2x4 kit of DDR3 1600 MHz, which sounds good until I found out that the board limits it to 1066 MHz, so initially I wasn't expecting much, but I did get the RAM free from my dad as a gift. For storage, I decided to throw in an HP 700 120GB SATA SSD, which I picked up new for about $26, and a 1TB Western Digital Blue hard drive for storage, which I did pick up for $30 new, which is more than enough for this build, if I'm being honest here. And all of this is enclosed in a Vivo smart case that I got off a friend when he upgraded his rig. And he didn't really seem to care what I did with the case, so he pretty much just let me take it. The case was designed to fit micro ATX form factor motherboards. The case is light and it's small, and at least it has room for airflow on the roof if you wanted to put in a radiator. Alrighty, now for the cheeky bit. All of this is powered by a Thermaltake TN2 430 430 watt power supply. Yeah, it's not great, but it's been doing pretty alright for this build. I've had this power supply for about a year now. Actually, no, I lied. Say about a year and a half to 2 years. I did get in this one free as well, as it came off of a PC my dad handed down to me from an old Phenom 2 setup. But again, the two cores will be the limiting factor here, and I don't have too much installed here in terms of games. But today, isn't really so much about what it can't do or how hard I'm going to push it. I mean, I will be pushing it in one aspect, but I'm more seeing of what it can do and what it's done for some of my favorite titles and games that I generally love to play on a near daily basis. And with all of that, let's go ahead and roll the benchmarks.